this is another thing I wish we spoke about earlier because I find it is really important, and no one I find is talking about this. PayPal did give some guidance, assurance during their earnings call. I'm just bringing up their transcript right now. They said so far for July. Let me find this here. That yeah, so far in July, our branded checkout volume growth has accelerated again to over 8%.
Yep.
Branded checkout, which is their highest take rate product, our highest month in growth rate since the end of the pandemic. We expect branded checkout volumes will strengthen throughout the back half of the year, supported by traction from our key strategic initiatives. Like going forward, so far, what they're seeing is signs of great growth. They said
before you go further, let me just mention this. You know, it did in terms of the guidance. I kind of felt like, you know, they might be sandbagging a little bit. And I was also thinking it might not be a bad idea to sandbag, one, the uncertainty out there, and two, you know, if they are to announce, let's say, a new CEO over the next few months, you know, you kind of want to get them started on a good ride up. You don't want to announce a miss as far as your numbers go, and hey, we got a new CEO, so that's a really
yeah.
so,
Take over now.
yeah. I mean, when I looked at what Meta reported for guidance, and Meta and PayPal kind of go together a lot, I kind of was like, I think PayPal sandbagging. I really do. But anyways, go on.
No, I mean, here, wait. Maybe I'll just share my screen real quick.
Okay.
Always good to for everyone to read it. Okay, here it is. Sorry about that. And then the strong exit as we went into July and seeing July results. Okay. In our view right now, we are beginning to see an inflection point. Always a good sign after a down quarter, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing our results on a slightly different trajectory for sure. And as I mentioned in my remarks, we're clearly seeing a lot of headwinds begin to shift towards tailwinds. E-commerce is definitely one of those. We're seeing e-commerce growth accelerating. We think at least mid-single digits right now. Anyway, I could keep going on, but guidance is just looking like, you know, going forward, they're seeing a lot of positive signs. You know, headwinds beginning to shift to look like tailwinds is what they've been talking. That's been the thesis for PayPal whenever I started looking into it at the beginning of the year. Like that was always the thesis. I would have expected it to start to see that in Q2. We might be seeing that by Q4. I think it's a matter of if you're willing to hold on to that investment for that long. Any remarks on that? And then I got another question for you on that topic.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think some of it is PayPal's innovation in kind of what they're working on, but I also think we're kind of coming out of a goods recession. How long does it last is a big question. I think we're looking pretty good for Q3, Q4. I think actually retailers are going to perform pretty well in terms of their underlying businesses in Q3, Q4.
Yeah.
I think 2024, I have a lot more question marks about, because obviously 2024, you're going to get the full effects of student loan repayments going on. And what is that going to do to the economy? What's that going to take out of it? It's good news for SoFi. Outside of SoFi, it might be bad news for everything else. But SoFi is going to benefit, okay? But so there's that factor. And then obviously you've had a huge amount of construction going on for a while. And it's something I've been talking about on my channel recently. I even spoke about it today, is, you know, all these construction projects that have been going on that were cheap, you know, financed with cheap money. If you're talking about the 2024 build out, I just don't know if it's quite there on the construction side from the private sector side of construction, just because obviously interest rates are where they're at. And to fund a new big project here and there, I don't know if it makes as much financial sense as it did when you made those decisions 2 years ago. Sure. So I think there's a lot of question marks about the economy in 24, but I think we're looking good for this next couple quarters. And I think companies like PayPal, Meta are going to be looking real good these next couple quarters. Companies like Amazon are going to be looking real good this next couple quarters. So it's going to be a fascinating time. It's just how long do we hold past that? I think that's the big question. So, but I'm pleased to, and they're not the only company. There's so many companies that I've heard they're talking about strengthening in July specifically. I heard it with a company named Fubo, which is a small company that's in the streaming space. They were just speaking about, I was listening to their conference call last night. They were speaking about on their ad business. They just saw a huge uptick in going into August. Obviously, if you look at Meta's guidance, that's phenomenal. They're going to get back to their biggest growth in at least a couple years. PayPal, I mean, there's a lot of stocks. Amazon, that it looks like the back half of this year is going to be looking a whole lot better than the first half of the year looked. And that's good news. Once again, we'll see how long it lasts, but it should be at least a pretty fun next couple quarters for the underlying company numbers.
Right, right. I did want to add to that in the back of that question, just speaking about the rest of the year. What is your position wanting to build out to? Have you spoken about that publicly on where you want to take your PayPal position?
I haven't, and I don't really have like a specific number in mind.
Sure.
I just know bigger. And in regards to PayPal, I'm mostly buying shares, but I have bought a little bit of call options. I might buy a little bit more, specifically December 2025s. And starting next month, we should be able to get January 2026s. So, even at a $60 strike, $65 strike, you're not paying a huge price for those. And you have a lot of time to play out for the PayPal story. So it's not like I need things to work out in the next 6 months or I'm screwed, or the next 12 months. If the stock goes on a beast run over the next 6-12 months and I want to take profits and sell those to somebody else at that time, obviously I could. But that's what I'm considering. It's just like buy. The stock, if the stock hits the 50s, I'm going to be looking more at calls. 60s, 70s, I'm looking more just buying shares straight up, throwing them in the filing cabinet, and that's about that. But the good news for me is I'm buying PayPal anything under 100. So I'm not a while to buy PayPal because it's nowhere close to 100 right now. So I believe I have at least the remainder of this year, maybe into 2024 at some point. So
are you thinking it's one of those positions that like you could potentially be doubling your share count and what you're holding currently, or?
Could, yeah, I could definitely see that being a potential.
Wow.
I see it I have a few different portfolios, but in like my Patreon portfolio, PayPal is now the biggest position in that portfolio, and it probably will become a lot bigger. And then in my public account, I think PayPal's up to, I want to say, the 5th or 6th biggest. And that's my bigger portfolio. I think it has like 1.7 or 1.8 million. And that is up to 4th, 5th, 6th biggest position. I could see it being probably the 4th long term, probably right under Meta's the biggest, Tesla's second biggest, Amazon 3rd, and PayPal's 4th. But obviously, a lot's going to depend on how those stocks perform, which is going to be an interesting factor, because you look at Amazon and Tesla's valuations. Obviously, those trade at much richer valuations. PayPal trades super cheap. Meta is kind of in the middle of those two, forward P of 20 something on Meta, maybe a 22 forward P, something like that. So, but we'll see how it all plays out. But the name of the game for me, bigger. More shares.
At this point in the conversation, Jeremy and I decided to pivot the conversation over to SoFi stock. However, there was a problem with the footage, and the footage was actually lost at 1 hour and 5 minutes rather than the total amount of 1 hour and 19 minutes for which we recorded. This makes the footage abruptly stop in the middle of us talking about SoFi Technologies, so instead, I just decided to cut out the entire conversation. Now, for the very few that still want to see a half of a conversation that Jeremy and I had about SoFi, there is still 17 minutes that actually remained in our conversation, which will be uploaded to the members-only section of the channel. I was this close to getting Jeremy to buy SoFi stock, but maybe it'll only just take a third chat. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, but bye for now.